Dean Martin's final years were a stark contrast to the dazzling life he had once led. Far removed from the limelight, the velvet curtains, and the swagger of the Rat Pack, his later life was quietly defined by heartbreak, isolation, and love tinged with tragedy. As his health faltered and personal losses mounted, the man who had once electrified Las Vegas found himself confronting an ending few of his admirers could have predicted. When death finally arrived, it closed the curtain on a life that balanced extraordinary fame with profound sorrow. Behind the charm, wit, and effortless cool that captivated audiences, there was a story of resilience, struggle, and enduring emotional pain. Born Dino Paul Crocetti in Steubenville, Ohio, Martin's early years were far removed from the glitter of Hollywood. His parents, Italian immigrants Gaetano Crocetti and Angela Barbera, worked hard to build a stable life. Gaetano labored long hours as a barber, while Angela dedicated herself to the family, speaking primarily Italian in the home. As a result, young Dino did not learn English until around the age of 5, which made school a daunting environment. Arriving as a non-English speaker, he felt alienated in his own country. His thick accent and limited ability to communicate left him vulnerable to teasing and bullying, experiences that instilled embarrassment and a sense of isolation during his formative years. School offered little refuge, and by the 10th grade, Dino, frustrated and disheartened, made the difficult decision to leave. Determined to forge his own path, he set out to support himself while easing his family's financial burden. His early adult life was marked by relentless labor and exposure to life's harsher realities. He took a series of grueling, low-paying jobs, each one teaching lessons of resilience and survival. Dino worked in a steel mill, delivered bootleg liquor during Prohibition, and even dealt cards in illegal gambling rooms. Each environment introduced him to the rougher edges of society and demanded grit, resourcefulness, and endurance. At the same time, he sought personal pride and physical accomplishment through boxing. As a teenager, he fought under the name Kid Crochet, stepping into the ring more than 30 times. The sport was brutal. He endured repeated beatings, a broken nose, a split lip, and countless bruises that left both visible and hidden scars. While he won several matches, Martin later acknowledged that boxing was as much a test of survival as of ambition. Each fight honed his emotional discipline, shaping a character defined by quiet determination, resilience, and an ability to withstand adversity. These early struggles forged the foundation of the man who would later become a legendary entertainer. The shy immigrant boy who had once struggled to speak English developed a thick skin and a steadfast resolve. The physical and emotional challenges of his youth stood in stark contrast to the smooth, relaxed persona he would later project on stage and screen. Long before he earned the title King of Cool, his life had been defined by struggle, grit, and an unyielding drive to rise above circumstance. Yet, despite the charm and humor that defined his public image, Martin's personal life was marked by repeated heartbreak and emotional strain. In 1941, at the height of his early career, Martin married Elizabeth and MacDonald. The union quickly produced 4 children, and for a period, their family life appeared stable. However, the pressures of fame, particularly his explosive partnership with Jerry Lewis, imposed significant strain. The relentless touring schedule, constant public scrutiny, and the temptations of show business created fissures in the marriage. Extended periods away from home gradually eroded the bond between them, and by 1949, their relationship could no longer withstand the pressures, ending in divorce. That same year, Martin sought to rebuild his personal life and remarried, wedding Jean Beager, a former Orange Bowl queen. With Jean, he pursued a more grounded domestic existence, and together they had 3 children, bringing Martin's total number of children to 7. For more than 2 decades, Jean remained at his side as his career soared through hit records, television appearances, and feature films. To the outside world, they seemed to epitomize a Hollywood marriage that had endured the odds. But beneath the polished exterior, tension simmered. Martin's demanding career, social lifestyle, and the emotional distance that often accompanied his carefully constructed cool persona introduced strains that, over time, became irreparable. By the early 1970s, after years of private discord, the marriage deteriorated, and in 1973, Martin and Jean divorced after 24 years together. By the mid-1970s, Dean Martin was firmly established as a major stage and screen icon, yet his private life was increasingly overshadowed by concern for his children. In 1974, his eldest son from his second marriage, Dean Paul Martin, became embroiled in a federal investigation that drew national attention. Dean Paul Jr., who had grown up under the spotlight of Hollywood fame and sought to forge his own career as a singer and aspiring actor, was arrested on federal firearms charges. Authorities alleged he possessed unregistered automatic weapons, including machine guns and even an anti-tank weapon, serious violations under federal law. These charges not only carried potential legal consequences, but also threatened the polished public image of the Martin family. The story quickly became fodder for tabloids, with headlines detailing the weapon seizure and the penalties Dean Paul Jr. faced. For a father whose persona was carefully cultivated as relaxed, lighthearted, and sophisticated, the situation was deeply distressing. Dean Paul ultimately pleaded guilty, paid fines, and received probation rather than a prison sentence. While this outcome spared him long-term incarceration, it left a lasting mark on his father. Friends and associates observed that Martin was privately troubled, though he rarely displayed vulnerability in public. Those closest to him understood that his children were central to his life, and seeing Dean Paul entangled in legal trouble caused significant emotional strain. The most shattering blow came on March 21, 1987, when Dean Paul Martin, at just 35, died during a routine military training mission. Dean Paul Jr. had established a life beyond being the son of a superstar. He first gained fame as a teen idol in the 1960s music trio Dino, Desi and Billy, then pursued acting and competitive sports, but his greatest passion was flying. A disciplined and highly skilled aviator, he served as a captain in the California Air National Guard, piloting high-performance aircraft. On that tragic day, he was flying an F-4 Phantom II during a training exercise over Southern California. Heavy cloud cover and poor visibility around the rugged San Bernardino Mountains challenged the mission. The jet reportedly descended at high speed and crashed into the mountainside. Investigators suggested spatial disorientation, known as vertigo, may have contributed. The violent impact left no chance of survival. For Dean Martin, the loss was unimaginable. While publicly known for his relaxed demeanor and dry humor, he was a devoted father. Friends reported that after his son's death, he withdrew socially, reduced public appearances, and became increasingly reclusive. The effortless charm and ease that had defined his career seemed muted by sorrow. In the aftermath, Martin never fully regained his former lightheartedness or social ease. In 1988, he joined longtime friends Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. for a Rat Pack reunion tour, intended to recapture the chemistry that had once electrified Las Vegas showrooms. Fans welcomed it as a triumphant return. Behind the scenes, however, Martin struggled. Performing, once second nature, had become emotionally exhausting. Sources close to the tour observed that grief made it difficult for him to maintain the upbeat energy the shows demanded. Soon after the tour began, Martin withdrew from the lineup. Though official explanations remained diplomatic, many believed he could not bear the demands of the spotlight while carrying such profound sorrow. Through the late 1980s, Martin became increasingly reclusive. He made fewer public appearances and gradually retreated from Hollywood social circles. Friends noted that the sparkle in his eyes had dimmed. The once vibrant entertainer, who had thrived on camaraderie, applause, and stage lights, became introspective, even fragile. Though he occasionally appeared for select events, the magnetic presence that had long defined him was now subdued. His grief was private, yet those who knew him recognized the unmistakable change. The King of Cool had withdrawn from public life, profoundly altered by loss. By 1989, Martin's world had grown smaller, overshadowed by the weight of accumulated grief. 2 years after the death of his son, another chapter quietly closed with the passing of his first wife, Elizabeth and Betty McDonald. Married in 1941, they had shared the early years of his adult life, raising 4 children together while navigating the uncertain years before fame transformed him. Though their marriage had ended in 1949, Betty had been an integral part of Dino Crocetti's transformation into Dean Martin. Her passing, though unremarked in major headlines, marked another emotional fracture in his life. Memories of shared youth, family beginnings, and early dreams resurfaced, highlighting the inexorable passage of time and the impermanence of life. By the early 1990s, Martin's life had become quiet, private, and deeply reflective. In September 1993, at age 76, he received the diagnosis that would mark the beginning of his final chapter: lung cancer compounded by severe emphysema. Smoking, a hallmark of his stage persona and nightlife image, had exacted a serious toll. Doctors described the cancer as potentially operable, though surgery posed significant risks due to his age and weakened respiratory system. After careful consideration, Martin declined aggressive treatment. Those close to him recognized that the decision reflected not just medical concerns, but years of emotional exhaustion and the cumulative weight of grief. In the final years of his life, Martin's physical condition gradually declined. Emphysema made breathing increasingly difficult, and his mobility was limited. Yet he maintained the composure that had always been his hallmark, refusing to dramatize his illness or seek public sympathy. There were no farewell tours, no public spectacles, only a steady, dignified retreat from public life. The September 1993 diagnosis signaled the closing of the life of one of America's most iconic entertainers. His rich, smooth voice and effortless stage presence, once capable of filling concert halls, now yielded to frailty. It was a quiet, solemn conclusion, reflecting both the long-term effects of lifestyle choices and the enduring burden of personal loss. Dean Martin spent his final years far removed from the nightlife he had once ruled. The man who had embodied effortless charm alongside Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack now lived in private, largely unseen by the public. Age and illness diminished his strength, and the vibrant presence that had defined an era of entertainment became a treasured memory. Severe emphysema limited his breathing and stamina, and his once velvety baritone had long been silent in retirement. Friends described him as introspective, a man defined by immense professional success, yet profoundly shaped by personal sorrow. The loss of his son in 1987 never fully healed and cast a shadow over the remainder of his life. On December 25, 1995, Christmas Day, Dean Martin passed away at 78 from acute respiratory failure caused by emphysema. The timing carried a bittersweet poignancy. A performer whose holiday recordings had become seasonal classics now departed on Christmas, a poetic and symbolic farewell. News of his death reverberated across the entertainment world, and tributes poured in honoring his velvet voice, impeccable comedic timing, and the cultural era he had helped define. In Las Vegas, the city that had once been electrified by his performances, casino lights were dimmed in his honor, a rare and symbolic gesture of respect. It was a fitting tribute to a man whose presence had helped elevate Las Vegas to the entertainment capital of the world. Dean Martin's life was one of extraordinary triumph, charm, and public success, yet shadowed by private sorrow. Behind the velvet voice and effortless wit lay a man who had endured hardship, loss, and heartbreak. The story of Dino Crocetti becoming Dean Martin is a testament to resilience, perseverance, and the quiet strength that underpinned the persona adored by millions. What do you think about Dean Martin? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.